Hey, before I kick off the podcast, I just want to shout out Next Door Clothing. Next Door, a clothing brand based out of Bondi in Sydney. They're making really nice jeans and shirts and hats. So go and check out their full range at nextdoorsydney.com. They're also artists, so you can go and check out a range of art. They put on rad parties, and I love what they're doing. So nextdoorsydney.com for the full range. In terms of just sort of understanding the different scenarios that can take place. You ready to roll?
Ready.
Yes.
I guess so.
You guess so. I don't like it. Where's the confidence?
Well, I haven't had any time to build up.
Oh, my God.
It's all right. It's probably better. I'm actually better on the spot than I am if I have time to plan and build up. So
that's good. Me too. This is... Shit, I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous. Thanks, Munva. This is for Clementine and Otis. All right, so shout outs to our sponsors today. Crush Organics, man, purveyors of the finest CBD oils and topicals. Now, CBD products are now officially legal in Australia, as they are in many parts of the world. So it's time to start improving your health and well-being. Like, do the research yourself, man. Like, CBD is an amazing natural supplement. Like, it's helped me so much with my sleep, recovery, and reducing stress and anxiety, inflammation. So I'll go grabbing for the CBD oil before I'll go for, say, some other pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory product. So if you head over to crushorganics.com, that's KRUSHORGANICS.com, and use code THT at checkout for an epic 40% discount. Fast shipping worldwide. Also, Kingpin Skateshop. Yes. Man, I always wanted to work at a skate shop when I was a kid, but I sort of feel like I am now, but I'm not. But anyway, I'm still living the dream. Literally, they have all the best shit. It's undeniable. Like, they've got the best sneaker range that you could ever ask for. And if you've got a fetish like me, this is your place. They also stock very carefully selected clothing brands, skate decks, and hardware. You can get everything you need at kingpinstore.com. That's KINGPINSTORE.com. And use code THT at checkout for a 15% discount and free shipping for orders over $25 Australian. Indosol, man, recycled motor vehicle tyres made into sandals. You've heard it 1,000 times. They're still the best. I love you, dudes. Let's go. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, get on it. It's coming into summer. Indosol have distributors worldwide. So go to indosol.com, that's INDOSOLE.com, and use code THT for a discount and advocate for conscious consumerism. All right, let's go, Munva.
Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks.
Yeah. Good to meet you, man. Whoa. Good on par.
Submissive dominant lifestyle. 3, 2, 1. All right, do this.
Today's guest is Munva Chao. Munva is a reformed corporate finance manager, world traveller, humanitarian, maker of amazing artistic cakes, and supervisor at the non-for-profit organisation Habitat for Humanity. Of Southeast Asian descent, Munva's family fled the genocide inflicted upon Cambodia by dictator Pol Pott before landing in the safety of Australia, in which they built a new life. Today, Munva is with me live and on location to share her journey, experiences, challenges, and hopes for the future. Munva Chao, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, my God. No one's called me Munva in so long.
Why? What's your name?
It is my birth name, but not my legal name anymore. But
Okay, well, let's get into it, because seriously, why did you have to change your name?
Oh,
Why do you feel inclined to change your name?
I think, I changed it legally when I turned 18 and was heading into uni, because I think during primary school especially and high school, no one could really pronounce my name, and I just had troubles.
See, that's interesting to me, because it's Munva, correct?
Yeah.
What's hard to pronounce about that?
You'd be surprised. So I got versions like Munva.
That's rad.
Munva was very common.
It's okay.
One teacher even called me Manua. So
that teacher's shit.
So I had quite a complex growing up with my name. Yeah.
A complex.
Yeah.
Like self-conscious about it.
Self-conscious, absolutely.
But it's linked to your family history and background.
It is, and actually my grandmother gave me the name. So I was born in the year that my family first arrived in Australia, and mum and dad couldn't speak English very well back then, but the story goes when they gave birth to me, they called my grandmother, who was, I think, in France at the time, and my grandmother was the one who gave me my name. I don't actually know what it means, but I've still kept it, so it's my middle name now.
So would you say that's a Cambodian name or Chinese?
Probably more Chinese.
Okay.
So my family is is Chinese descent, but my mum and dad were born in Cambodia, so I actually resonate more with Cambodian culture than Chinese.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do want to harp on a little bit about the name change. I mean, it's quite common for, I guess, for people with Asian heritage to change their name to a more Western name. Do you think that's a form of racism?
I don't know if it's racism, but I guess from my perspective, it is a little bit about being able to identify or assimilate maybe more easily. So by choosing, mind you, the way I spell my English name, people still can't pronounce that. So I don't think you guys chose a very good way.
What's your English name?
So my English name is Christine, but it's spelled with a K and a double E. So it's a little weird. But yeah, I don't know if I think it's self-inflicted racism, if anything. It's not like anyone else is forced me to change my name, but I just felt more comfortable with a name that was more, common, I guess.
Yeah, common to where you're living.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I personally am struggling with that. I don't feel or see why someone should have to, change their name.
Yeah, and I agree.
I feel like you do have I guess, we all have a responsibility to adapt to our society to a certain level. But I guess like it's our birthright to keep our name, isn't it?
Well, I think so. But I think some people also don't like the name that they're given. So by choice, choose to change it.
Like Shannon.
Yeah, see, I don't see you as a Shannon. I don't think Shannon fits you or your personality.
Okay, well, what should I be called then? Shanva.
Maybe, yeah. Shanva, yeah.
Shanva.
Yeah. Or Avnan. How about Avnan?
Adnan. Like Shanva. Actually, I've actually asked my mum over the years, like, why'd you call me Shannon? It's a girl's name. Like, I got that my whole life.
Yeah.
Why'd you call me Shannon? Oh, we just thought it was good at the time. It's like, okay, well, great. Thanks, man. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, mothers out there.
That's true. Happy Mother's Day to my mum.
This is Mother's Day special.
It is.
So I just want to get straight into a little bit about the work you do with Habitat for Humanity. So, for those that don't know, like, what is Habitat for Humanity and what do they do?
So Habitat's actually a international NGO. We're active in over 70 countries. A lot more popular and well known in America, which is where it was founded. In Australia, we're still trying to get our name out a bit more, but we basically provide safe and decent shelter to less fortunate and disadvantaged families. In particular, we have a couple of different programs, but more locally, which is what I'm working for, it's the Bushfire Recovery Program and Brush with Kindness. So Bushfire Recovery, I think everyone knows about the devastating fires that hit us in 2019 and beginning of 2020. There's still a lot of families who are struggling, so Habitat got together through some amazing grant funding and have been able to get out to the Southern Highlands and Blue Mountains areas and help families try and rebuild. Most of our work is around gardening or clearing debris, building some small structures, but it's all on the road to recovery.
So it's really those fires were well over a year ago now.
15 months for some people, 16 months.
So what's the recovery looking like that far in? Is it still devastating?
It is. There's quite a bit of a spectrum. So when we first started the program in June, and I wasn't involved at that time, but when we first started in June 2020, there was a lot of families who had nothing. So they're pretty much just starting to clear up debris and clear up the property after in the first very initial stages of trying to rebuild. Now we're 9 months in. Some families have actually rebuilt and are just starting to move into their new house. Others are still living in tents. So it's very different for different families. And obviously some were insured, some weren't. But there's a lot of people out there who are still suffering.
Wow. So at the moment, on a day-to-day basis, what are you doing? You said you're clearing debris and you're rebuilding things. Maybe tell us about your interactions with these people.
Honestly, it's been probably the most amazing experience I've had in the last couple of years. But the number of people I've met, and most of them, I guess, are the older generation who've lived on the land for like 30, 40 years, spent their lives building a lifetime of memories. And there are a lot of characters, but there's people who are still suffering from a lot of emotional trauma. So aside from the physical aspects of losing their property and losing everything, like there's stories of, I've met people who have literally fled with nothing but the clothes on their back and their shoes. And they went and found refuge during the fires. And then when they've come back to their property, there's nothing left for them whatsoever. And they didn't even have another pair of shoes. So it was to the point where they have to go back to the shops just to buy another pair of shoes or a jumper or another piece of clothing because they had nothing. Wow. The funniest thing was I met a couple who said to me that there's people who react with like, oh, I'm so sorry and all that. But to them, they don't, like that doesn't mean anything. And the funniest reaction they appreciated was when they were telling their story, someone said to them, shit, that's bloody unlucky. And to them, that was just a genuine response rather than because they don't want pity. They just want,
What do they want? They just their life
action. Yeah, they want action.
Yeah.
They want to get things moving again and, start to rebuild. And I think the most extraordinary thing that I've learned is how resilient both humans as well as nature is. So I think there's the human spirit, and some of these people are like 80 years old. Like there's two ladies I know who are 80 years old, lived on the land, lost everything, but refused to leave it, and were still intent on rebuilding and coming back to the land. I mean, I'm thinking at that age, I just want to live comfortably. I would have considered packing up and moving into something that's already there rather than trying to rebuild again. But to them, it's more than just a house. It's more than that. It's a lifestyle. It's they want to be out in the nature, and they just want to be with,
Well, they're connected to the land, right?
They are. And the amount of work that they do themselves, even at that age, like we come and they ask us to do things like clear sticks or something just so they can run the mower over it. And I'm like, we can mow the lawn. They're like, no, that's okay. So just the resilience, and despite all the trauma that they've gone through, they're still willing to put in the effort. And I think a lot of them didn't realize how much help was out there as well. And a lot of them wanted to do things on their own. And for me, it's actually reminded me just how many good people there are out in the world, because I think often we talk about all the bad things in the world, the bad people in the world, and not enough focus is put on how much good is out there. So,
so true. It's good. Have you ever heard of the Good News Network?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a website, and they only do good news stories. I think they've got an Instagram page as well. Okay. And it's great. Like, and their stories are also, topical and current, but they're just all positive stories.
Oh, that's certainly a good thing in this world that we need more of, I think.
You think it's too altruistic just to be focused on the positive?
I think it's actually important, not just focus on the positive, but to actually highlight the positives as well as the negatives. Human nature is just to focus on the negatives and the bad, like the things we're missing out on, the things we don't have, all the negative stuff that happens to us. And we kind of forget to celebrate and, advocate for the good things, because there is a lot out there if you're looking for it.
Why do you think it's human nature to dwell on the bad?
I don't know. You tell me. I think I'm probably more of a glass half full. I think I've
noticed.
A lot of people tell me I'm such a super positive person, but I mean, that doesn't come without practice and without conscious thought. I think I used to focus on the negative and what I was missing out on, and but if you do that, then you don't take the lessons from it, and you don't focus on. You forget about what's important, and
How does Habitat for Humanity identify and prioritise who needs help?
So we do work with some community agencies, and they give us referrals, and I guess there's no hard and fast criteria. Everyone and nobody deserved the fires. So no matter if you're rich, poor, whatever, no one deserved the fires and what happened and the impact of those. So, but we do, I guess our assessment is based on just need, like who's in terms of urgent need. So we'll still try and help as many people as we can, regardless of circumstance, but prioritising just becomes about who's in more urgent need of.
Does it get political in terms of that? Like, because I'm sure it would raise a lot of issues around equity. Do you know what I mean by that?
I do. It doesn't. I guess for us, it doesn't get political because at the end of the day, everyone's grateful for whatever assistance we can give, whether it's a day, 2 days, whatever. And I guess the good thing is that most of the communities that we work in, they all sort of rally together anyway. So yeah, you can get cases of, call it jealousy, if you like, or survivor guilt as well, things like that.
Survivor guilt.
There is survivor guilt.
Can you break that down a little bit?
So in terms of survivor guilt, it's the extent of loss that people suffered. So if somebody lost their entire home, whereas say your next door neighbor only lost their gardens. So the neighbor with the the neighbor that lost their gardens may suffer from survivor guilt because they feel bad that they only lost this, whereas the next door neighbor lost everything.
And you've witnessed that?
Yeah,
those scenarios?
Yeah, I've met people who've spoken about it as well. But to me, a loss is still a loss. But yes, the extent may not have been as bad, but it doesn't mean the trauma that it's caused or left behind is any less.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been traumatic. And it's hard to fathom if you didn't experience it.
It is. And I think the people that I've met, you can see the pain and the suffering that in their eyes, just when I talk to them and in them telling me their stories and things like that, you can see the trauma is still there. But amazingly, they still carry on and they still, yeah.
Yeah. So specifically, what's your role as a supervisor? Are you organising volunteers? Are you site managing, overseeing?
So all of that. So I guess my role is a program manager. I am contracting and acting at the moment, but it's an opportunity I was blessed to get so I initially started out as a volunteer with Habitat. It's an organisation that I've always, supported and believed in. So I started it with them volunteering, and then I got an opportunity to take on a role. So in that role, I do both on-site work. So I mobilize, or we gather volunteers, bring them to site, and I sort of coordinate, supervise, manage the work on the day. I'm by no means trade qualified, but we have some amazing volunteers who have that skill set, and all I have to do is make sure I have all the right stuff for them. And then the other side of it is meeting the residents or the clients that we assist. So I manage a relationship with them, and yeah.
Sounds vastly different to corporate finance.
Oh, it is.
So can we go back a little bit? We'll work in reverse a little bit here. So your prior experience was that you worked in corporate finance.
I did.
I don't want to say the name of the company because I don't want to advocate for that company. But you're working for a very large multinational corporate organisation as a finance manager. So your background is in finance and accountancy, correct?
Yes, it is.
So tell me about your transition out of that, and then now doing something where I'm assuming it's quite a large pay cut.
It is, to say the least.
So how do you go from that to that?
Yeah, I guess, look, I fell into accounting as well. So when I went to uni, I had really no idea what I wanted to do, but I took on I went and did a business degree, and then I decided to major in accounting, probably just because my sister was doing accounting and it made sense. And I started out as a chartered accountant, but I hated it, never wanted to stay in it. So I moved into commercial corporate accounting, which was better. But
why was it better?
Just because for me, my strengths were not tax and auditing and
And more,
like proper accounting. So I actually
more pay.
No, not to do with the pay. It was just always about the work. For that part of it, it was about the work. I refer to myself often as a fake accountant.
What do you mean? Shit, don't do my taxes.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to. So if you ask me to do tax or ask me anything about accounting standards and laws and regulations, I'm shit. Like I'm not going to pretend I'm not that kind of accountant.
Can you stop swearing on my podcast?
Sorry.
Keep going. Just kidding. Sorry, keep going. Man, I'm being silly. Keep going.
Now I've forgotten where I'm at.
You said you shit at...
Yeah, sorry, shit at proper accounting. But then I moved into commercial and I sort of found my groove in terms of being more the analytical side, the reporting and process improvement. So my last couple of... I'll say the company. So I did work for a company called Boral, and I'll say that because they're the ones who got me onto Habitat. So there is a lesson. there is a positive. But look,
so Boral, they're the big road building
construction materials.
Yeah, like they're massive.
Yeah. And look, it's as much. So I spent 6 years in that company, and it was probably one of my like most important parts of my career, I guess, because I got the opportunity to learn and grow and do a lot of different roles, and I was pretty much exposed to the entire business of Boral. So I'm not going to, say bad things about it because it was a great opportunity and I met some really good people there. But at towards the tail end of my time at Boral, I just got burnt out. But it's not partly culture, partly the corporate culture, but also like a part of it is me. So who I am as a person. I'm just the kind of person who will throw my heart and soul into something just because I have high expectations and set high standards for myself. So I was working crazy hours and I had zero balance. It was all work and no life. And coupled with a couple of other things that were going on in my life, I'll be honest, I came to a breaking point, and I remember the day that I decided that it was enough. I was in a meeting with my boss and my bigger boss, and then I just started tearing up because I'd worked so hard on this project, and there was just some things that weren't being, I guess, understood by some of the bigger bosses, and I just came to this point where I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I punishing myself? And then I ended up on the bathroom floor at work in tears. And my boss came to see me and she was like, are you okay? I'm like, I just don't know I just didn't know why I was doing it anymore. So I left the office that day, and then two days later I sat down with my boss and I just said, I'm sorry, but it's time. I just can't do it anymore. And the struggle I think I'd known it was coming, but the struggle for me was walking away from, as much as I hate to say it, but walking away from the money, walking away from the thrill, because I got thrills out of what I was achieving, but I just couldn't do it.
Was it lacking fulfillment?
It was. I was lacking fulfillment. I was doing probably way more than I should have done, and I just felt underappreciated, I guess, but it was literally just my body just couldn't take it anymore. And emotionally, I just couldn't take it.
What amount of money do you feel would mitigate you enduring that? And I'm serious with this question because, I mean, I think a lot of people do endure similar circumstances. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that because, like, it's quite raw. But you said that you were, you had to walk away from that. Like, would there be any amount of money that would have allowed you to stay in that and endure it?
At that point, no.
Okay, why?
Because I just knew that if I didn't leave then what was the point of earning the money when I wasn't spending it? Because all I was doing was working. I wasn't enjoying any aspect of life. It was all just about work. And to me, I felt like I was being trapped, I guess.
Trapped?
Yeah, trapped by that. And then I didn't know how to release myself from that because you get accustomed to a certain lifestyle and a certain, way of life. And for me, it was just like, I had a mortgage at that time. Thankfully, I didn't have like a family, like kids or a partner to worry about. But I felt like I needed the security and all of that. But then I realized I didn't.
Yeah.
And that to me, what was more important was my mental health, B, my emotional health, and my physical health as well. Because I would spend like 10 hours in the office. I was getting home late, not eating properly, and just not really functioning. I was just kind of on autopilot, but it was all about work. And don't get me wrong, I was doing good things at work, but that's all it was.
Your family are refugees?
They are?
Yeah, from Cambodia.
From Cambodia.
So do you feel a pressure growing up to achieve academically and fall into a high income role?
Yes.
Right, yes. All right, let's move on.
No, so I'm the youngest in my family. I've got an older sister and an older brother. Let's just say my older sister, she's a wonderful human. Like, she's the most kindest, generous person that I know. And she's got a really good heart. Academically, she wasn't, top of the class or anything. And then my brother, he's, let's call it the black sheep of the family, and still is. And so when it came to me, my parents put quite a bit of pressure on me to study, to excel, and to do well academically. So I remember growing up, I didn't have to do any chores around the house because my sister was the one who had to cook and clean. My brother was just off who knows where, and my parents wouldn't let me do chores because they wanted me to focus on studying and just getting good marks. So that's what I did. But
so you were identified as that. That was your role in the family.
Yeah, to basically achieve. I didn't even have a job until my very first job was when I was 18, and it was an accounting job. So I never worked at Macca's. I never worked at a retailer or anything like that, just because my parents wanted me to focus on study.
Wow. Wow, you didn't have to work at Macca's?
Or anything of that sort, yeah.
Sounds like good parenting to me.
Well, yes and no, I guess, but...
Did you want to have a part-time job as a teenager?
It's a good question.
I did. I know a lot of teenagers really want that.
Yeah, I think I did in part just for some independence, but at the same time, I probably was like, oh, well, I'm not allowed to get a job. That's cool. Yeah. I'll just pretend to study.
And you still got good grades, didn't you?
I'm the kind of person who's a crammer, so I'm a bit of a procrastinator when it comes to like studies and pressure. But when the pressure's on, that's probably when I perform my best.
It's go time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I can knuckle down and I can like study for hours on end, leading like in the couple of days leading up to it. But if you ask me a week, 2 weeks before, I'm like not interested.
Yeah. I hate to say it, I think I need that pressure as well just to get shit done.
Yes, I think you do.
Yeah.
That's how you like to live your life.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's a good thing.
No.
Every time I'm under pressure, I go, oh man, I wish I started that 2 weeks ago. Fuck.
But then you do your best work though, right?
No, that's the thing I don't. I think I'm doing a half-assed job. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that family structural approach. It is a little bit different. Can you maybe tell us the story and the journey that your parents went through to get to Australia?
Yeah. So I guess to start off, my parents were sponsored.
Sponsored?
Yeah, they were sponsored over, but
by
my uncle, one of my uncles,
who was already here.
Yeah. So I guess to start from the beginning, when my parents come from an area or a region called Battambang, which is kind of like northwest, close to the border of Thailand, closer to the border of Thailand. So during the war, they did flee to Thailand.
So the Vietnam War?
No, the Pol Pot. So
the Pol Pot regime.
Yeah, sorry, the Pol Pot regime. So it was basically a civil war because it was genocide. And so they fled to Thailand, and so my mum is one of, I've got to get this right, I think she's one of 9 or something, and my dad is like one of 14 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my grandparents were very busy.
Excuse my ignorance, though. Like, why did they feel like they had to flee? Were their lives being literally threatened?
Yes, literally threatened.
Like,
So,
why were their lives specifically being threatened?
well, when Pol Pot came through, anyone who was educated, anyone who was of any significance, basically, that threatened the regime was, a target.
Wow.
So, and my grandmother wasn't, I don't think they were like super rich, but they had a house and, a lot, and some of my family were quite educated, my aunties and uncles. So it was just a matter of getting out. They needed to get out. And so they stayed in a refugee camp in Thailand. And I think, to be honest, it's been quite hard to get the full story from my parents. They still find it difficult to talk about. In particular, there's also a bit of a language barrier, and that's on me. So I can speak Khmer, but I'm not super fluent. So when it's formal and when it's when they speak fast, I can't understand. I'm more colloquial. And my parents, they can speak English, but like conversational. So when it comes to like the technical things, they can't speak English and I can't understand Khmer. So the story is a little bit broken, but look, they did flee to Thailand, and I think they came back as well to try and find other family members to stay at. But in the end, my mum and some of her sisters and brothers ended up in this camp in Thailand. And one of my uncles, which is my mum's brother, he's a very intelligent person, and he was actually studying in Queensland, university in Queensland. And when the whole thing broke out with Pol Pot, he got a job with the UN as an interpreter, and he went around to try and find his brothers and sisters. So he ended up finding them. And what he did was, and this is only a story I found out in December 2017 when I went to Cambodia for the first time with my mum and some of my aunties and uncles. But so that uncle helped our family survive in the refugee camps by giving, so at the time I think Polaroid cameras were just coming out. Mm-hmm. So he gave my uncles a Polaroid camera, and they would go around taking photos of families and sell them or for money. So that's how they made some money. And then with that, they bought rice, and the aunties or my aunties would cook the rice and cook the food for the families in the camp. So yeah, and as I said, it's only a story I found out 3 or 4 years ago. So it was actually quite a beautiful story. But so that uncle was somehow, and I don't know the full details, but he somehow managed to sponsor all of his brothers and sisters over to Australia. So we basically owe our lives in Australia to this one uncle. Wow. So I think my family extends. So my mum's side alone, in terms of aunties, uncles, cousins, second cousins and all that, we are like over 100 or something. And all of that would not have been possible without this uncle bringing us to Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a hero.
He is. And he's so humble. Like, I think a couple of years ago, some of us, myself and my cousins, were talking about trying to hold something to thank him, basically, just, nothing big, but just something for our family to say thank you. And he didn't want anything. I was like, no. And yeah, so he's just, we do owe our lives to him.
Wow, man. That's just, what a story.
Yeah.
Your parents in particular, you said they don't really like to talk about that time in their life. Yeah. How do you feel that that's actually impacted you as the next generation?
I think it's probably a bit of a two-way street. So I guess when I was growing up, I took it for granted just how much my parents went through, and I didn't really ask them either. So I think I probably just wasn't interested. As bad as that sounds, I think I stage in my life. But as I've gotten older, and over the last few years especially, I've been trying to call it work on my relationship with my parents, because we don't have a friendship, if that makes sense. I go out for dinner and we just eat. We eat and run. So there's no conversation, there's no connection. And the last few years in particular, I've just been trying to work on building a bond or something with my family. So because I didn't necessarily ask, they probably didn't talk about it. And then in talking, but in my dad now telling me the story since, and my mum telling me as well, I'm trying to connect with that part of me more. And when as I said, the first time I went back to Cambodia was in 2017. Went to Cambodia, not back, because I was born in Australia. And my dad didn't want to go, so he had no interest in going. To him, it's kind of like he's moved on, I guess, or it's too painful, and he didn't necessarily want to see it. But we went back. My mum went back there for the first time, so she's been in Australia for 40 years now. So it was 37 years since she'd been there, and we went back to the place where my grandmother's house used to be. It's obviously not there anymore, but yeah, so it was a really powerful trip, and I was surprised at how connected I felt, given I'd never been to Cambodia and all of that. But when I was there, I think it was made more special because I was with mum and with like my uncle and a couple of aunties and cousins, and just even we went to visit the S21 and the killing fields with just that one of my uncles who could speak English, and he was telling us the stories of our family there, and that was just so powerful. Like, I remember sitting there as he was telling us the story, I was crying, and I just felt such a deep sense of, I don't know, connection. Even though I'd never been there.
What a contrast in cultures and experiences. Like for you, you were born in Australia, so the contrast between your life and their life and culture is just so different.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel lost between cultures as the next generation?
I do, because I think there's an expectation, I guess, from my parents that we carry on some of the traditions and the cultural, norms of both Chinese and Cambodian. So whereas for me, growing up, I think I tried to put a lot of that aside because I wanted to fit in and all of that, and because it didn't mean anything to me because I was never there. But I guess there is a bit of a struggle to try and figure out where I fit in. But I don't know. I think as I got older, I don't think there's a need to fit into either, because I'm just, as the next generation, it's okay for me to still adopt some of my cultural heritage and be proud of it, but also identify as an Aussie. So if people ask me, what am I? I'm an Aussie.
What am I? Do people ask?
Well, like, where are you from?
Do you get asked that?
Yeah, often you get asked, where are you from?
Well, why do you think you get asked that?
Because obviously I'm Asian in appearance, but I sound super Aussie.
Bogan. Sorry.
Thanks.
Bogan.
Yes, Westie, right? Westie Bogan. Yes,
Just
I'm a Westie
kidding.
Bogan.
I'm kidding.
No. I don't know. I guess people just have a fascination. But I mean, I ask people who look of different descent where they're from as well. So I guess I get it.
Why do you feel like we need to know that?
For me, it's more of I'm interested in heritage and I'm interested in culture. So I like, understanding and knowing more about different cultures around the world, which is, part of my travel journey. But yeah, I don't know. I got asked the other day, actually. So I'd been speaking to a man over work, and he had this image of me, I guess, from my voice. And then when I met him for the first time, he said to me, "You're not at all what I expected." And I said, "What were you expecting?" He said, "Well, to be honest, I guess from your name, someone English white." And then he said, "And for you, you sounded big."
What?
I don't know. So his impression was
big?
English white, big, old, and bossy.
Old? That sound old or big?
I don't know. Maybe it's the kind of conversations we were having, but then
Who is this guy? Is he deaf?
But when I met, and then he said, "But you're not at all any of that." He said, "Oh, no, he did say." So he said, "You're young."
Are you? You look young. Are you young?
I
Don't have to say
I
how
like
old
to
you
think
are.
I'm young.
You're not young. Like you're not like in your 20s.
No, I'm not in my 20s, but
Or teenager.
no. But I guess I'm still young compared to him. He was 74. So
True.
yes, but he did say I was still bossy.
Are you?
I don't know, Shannon. Am I?
Do you have to be bossy, especially when you've functioned at that cutthroat boardroom corporate level? Is that where it comes from?
I don't think I think it's just, I don't think I'm particularly bossy, but I have been told often that I am.
By who? Colleagues?
My family, my friends,
Boyfriends?
colleagues. I don't know about boyfriends, but
That's a yes.
maybe. But I get the biggest compliment I ever had from one of my staff, though, was she said to me, "You're very bossy, but I've learned a lot from you, and you're the best teacher I've had."
Wow.
So I'll take that.
But you're not bossy in a controlling way.
No,
You
I
just
don't
know
think so.
what you want.
I can be very anal, very pedantic about things.
They're good qualities. Like you like things
To an extent.
done properly.
I do. But I guess it's all about standards, and my standards are probably
Do you ever say to
extreme.
people, okay, everyone, we're going to work together as a team, but we're going to do it my way? Do you ever say that?
in my head. No, look,
You know what? So I'm going to jump in there. Maybe you're a leader innately.
I think I have had that feedback, I guess. But let me just say, my natural persona is an introvert and someone who doesn't necessarily speak up. Especially in my younger years, I lacked confidence in my ability and in who I was as a person and all of that. So I sort of would let everyone else, talk, and I'd be swallowed up. But I think as I got older, a bit more experienced and a bit more confident in myself, I've learnt when to speak up and what to say and how to be assertive without being aggressive, how to get people to work with me and, as cliche as it sounds, but kind of come with me on the journey as opposed to making people feel like they're being forced into doing something.
Right, yeah.
But it's much more powerful if you can get people to be on board with you than to feel like they're just following you blindly.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
Like I don't know if I'm a leader, but I think I'd like to think I have the ability to at least influence things in a positive way.
Yeah, I love that. And you were saying earlier in your role as supervisor, you said, I don't have any trade skills, but we have volunteers who have that. So would you say you're good at utilising resources and tapping into that?
Yeah, I think I guess my strength is trying to identify what needs there are and how best to get the resources, whether it's people or things or, but to pull things together to get things happening more so than knowing the trade side. But and to be honest, the role is probably more about relationship building and relationship managing, because you're dealing with all types of personalities. You're dealing with people who are traumatized, but you're also dealing with volunteers who are, willing to help you. You're dealing with transport people and all, tradies as well. So it's a lot of it is about people skills. And I think most things in life are about people skills.
I think most things in life are about relationships. Yeah, like on all levels. I think, that they're so important. It's so fundamentally challenging for so many people to get right. Like, I'm not talking on an intimate level. I'm talking more on professional friendship. It's I think the fundamental.
It is. There's, I guess, EQ is a very emotional intelligence as opposed to intellectual intelligence. Yeah. It's a very, I don't know, I guess it's an underrated thing. One of my biggest turning points in my career was when one of my bosses said to me that my most powerful asset or my strength was actually my EQ and ability to relate to different people, whether it was, staff, colleagues or executives or whatever. But he sensed, and I never even recognized it in myself, but he sensed this, I guess, innate ability for me to sort of tap into people and work out how best to deal with them naturally, I guess. And I've sort of, once he said that to me, I've worked on it and actually just tried to tap into that more and use that to get things done. Yeah.
Quite empathetic?
Yeah. I think, you often describe me as quite empathetic.
You seem to be. Yeah.
I mean, I am conscious of it, and one of the things that I strive or try to do is without judgment, try and be without judgment. And I'm not saying I do it all the time and I'm perfect at it, but at least I try to be conscious of it, particularly in my relationship with my parents.
Thanks for your honesty there. That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone struggles a lot. I mean, I think most people would identify with that struggle. You know, it's hard.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
So Southwest Sydney.
Okay.
My parents lived in an area called Bosley Park. So I was there for 22 years of my life, and then I moved out, and I've just sort of been floating around Southwest Sydney for probably good 15 years after that, and then now I'm in Wollongong.
But how would you describe the community you grew up in?
It was actually quite multicultural. So the area that I lived in and the high school I went to, we had like Asians as well as Caucasians, people of all different descents, Middle Eastern, things like that. So I think I was fortunate. It was always quite a multicultural environment.
Yeah. Did that, do you feel like that helped your family with the assimilation process of living in that area?
I think for my parents, yes, but yes and no. My parents kind of probably stuck more towards the Asian community because it was what they knew and it was what they were comfortable with. So like they've been living in Australia now longer than what they lived in Cambodia for, but they still can't speak English as well as they can speak Cambodian. So
because they've spent a lot of time with other Cambodians.
Yeah, with similar cultures.
Australian Cambodians.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Which I always actually found interesting. I
don't want to harp on about racism, but did you feel, growing up, did you ever feel different, or did you ever experience any level of racism as a young person?
I think I did, but I don't have too many specific memories of, being attacked or being vilified for being Asian. But as a lot of my friends were Asian, for instance. Actually, in high school, I had quite a mixed group. But the first instance that I remember experiencing racism was actually when I was in Port Stephens, which is up north. And I remember we were walking, we'd just eaten at a restaurant and we were walking on the street and someone kind of yelled out from the balcony something along the lines of go home or go back to your own country or something like that.
God.
And I was like,
amazing.
When I looked around, it was only us. So so that surprised me. And that was when I was probably late teens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel maybe like growing up in Western Sydney that you were maybe immune to those kind of moments?
Either that or I just didn't feel it. Like,
I'm sure Aussie.
Yeah, I'm sure there were instances, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I've just blocked it out of my memory. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Like when I hear stories like that, because I experienced it as a young person. I used to get called a wog.
Yeah,
and I never understood it. I was born here. My mum was born here. My dad was born in Malta, and so were his parents. But I have a Maltese surname, and I've got dark hair, dark eyebrows, maybe a slightly like different shade of skin.
Yeah.
But I was a wog, and I just could never understand it, because I was like, if I had to identify with white Australian culture, I could say, well, both of my grandfathers fought in World War II for this country, why don't you scratch the surface before you say shit like that?
Why does it make you any less Aussie?
Yeah, and I think, I really want to advocate for people actually, thinking beyond the surface because, listening to your story and what your family endured to come here and then make a living and effectively contribute to Australian society and contribute to the tapestry, diverse tapestry of what makes this country great is so special.
Yeah.
It's not like they've, come here and not contributed, and it just upsets me.
Yeah, and I think Australia as a society wouldn't be what we are today without all the different influences from different parts of the world.
That's what makes it better.
Yeah, I agree. You go to other countries who are just about their country and culture. As beautiful as it is, I'm also really grateful that we aren't ignorant because we've had exposure to all sorts of walks of life. I'm so grateful that I know what, Vietnamese culture is about. I know what Italian culture is about. just through friends and associations, that I've met in my life living in Australia. Whereas if you go, so I went to Morocco a couple of years ago and all they know is kind of Moroccan culture. So when someone from Australia comes over, they literally have very little knowledge about Australia and they're like, so what foods do you eat? And that's actually, I found that a very hard question to answer because they said, what's your national food? And I'm like, I don't really know because Australia...
Chinese restaurants.
We have everything. Like, we just have everything. Other than, so I'll be like, I don't know, a meat pie?
Meat pie? Pavlova? Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me?
But I think a pav isn't even Australian, isn't it? Like New Zealand?
It probably is. But they do everything better over there.
They do. But yeah, I just found it because we're so multicultural, it's just...
Well, I don't think we are that multicultural. I just think that we don't have an identity, and
isn't that by default our identity?
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? I think we should be hanging our identity more on our Indigenous culture.
That's true too.
Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we hanging our country's identity on that?
Yeah.
And I'm going to probably rock the boat here a little bit, but it comes back to our national flag. Like, why do we have a Union Jack on our flag? Sorry.
Yeah.
That should be the Aboriginal flag.
Okay? It should be.
That's my opinion.
They
you can disagree with me.
No, I do. I agree. We don't recognise our Indigenous heritage enough.
Again, and like if we refer to our neighbours in New Zealand, I love how they identify with their Indigenous culture and they're proud of it.
Yeah, and they celebrate it.
They celebrate it. Yeah. And I'm optimistic though, and I feel like our country's moving in a better direction in regards to that. But it's slow.
It is slow, but I guess again, glass half full at least. People.
Good, you can be the glass half full.
You'll be the glass half empty.
I'm jaded.
But look, at least it is slow, but it's important that it continues to be recognised and talked about so that it can be improved upon.
Agreed.
So,
here's a heavy question for you. Do you feel that COVID travel restrictions will breed or have bred racism and discrimination across the world?
I think we've seen that it did, and it has.
Did it? Has it? How?
Or in particular against Chinese people or Asians. We saw it in America. We saw it even in Australia down in, Victoria. I think there were a couple of instances of vandalism and things like that. And on a personal note, I actually experienced it as well. So
explain.
At the time, so not to any extent like that, but at the time COVID started breaking out, I was over in Amsterdam and I was attending a concert and I was lining up to go into the concert, and then so we had our bag checked and then we had to turn around to put our bag away in a locker. And then I turned around and then the three people behind me who were, Caucasian, they immediately put their arms over their face and whispered something under their breath once they saw me. So obviously...
Did they whisper, she's from Wuhan?
Really? Something, I can't remember, but and to me, I thought it was just weird and it didn't even connect to me at that time. But a few seconds later, I went, hold on, I think that was an attack, or not an attack, but a reaction to the fact that I was Asian. So immediatly I was COVID. Yeah,
and I understand it actually at the time. There was a lot of fear, like in the early stages, and all the reports it was coming out of Wuhan, and so maybe don't want to look too deep into those sort of reactions. Like, was it racism, but was it just genuine safety and fear concern?
True, but I haven't been to China in about 4 years.
And they don't know that. They don't know that.
Correct, but it was just that it was goes back to what you're saying though. That was a reaction based on outward appearance, and
but if they had spoke to you, they went, "She's a Westie from Sydney, who's never been to Wuhan."
Correct, who's actually been in Europe for the last 6 months anyway. And had not been in any close contact with anything of the sort. So.
How was that experience in Europe? So in Europe, you were traveling in Europe. What were you doing there?
Yeah, well, so I guess as part of my quitting work decision and getting some life back, I went completely 180 and ditched work and just went full-time traveling. So in 2019, I sold all my possessions pretty much.
All of them amazing.
Sold my car, sold my house, gave away a whole shitload of stuff as well, just left with some clothes really and some kitchen things because I love my kitchen. And I decided to head out and travel indefinitely.
So rad.
And also,
I love that.
well, actually, it also came as a result of a health incident I had as well. So I've had a history of collapsed lungs. And then the last incident I had, I sort of thought to myself, I mean, what's life for if I'm not going to spend it doing something I really want to do? And it had kind of been niggling at me for a while about in terms of just going on a long-term trip because I always kind of thought I'm a little bit too old, etc. But I had to do it. I needed to get it out of the system. So I packed up, headed over. I started out in Eastern Europe, did some amazing things, a couple of things that I wanted to tick off I got done. So like I wanted to see Iceland. I wanted to do Portugal, Morocco and Spain, and I was able to do all that. But on top of that, I got to go to Egypt. I went to Israel and Jordan.
Wow.
So it was just a phenomenal experience.
Why did you feel inclined to go to Israel and Jordan, if you don't mind me asking? Because it's not generally on a lot of people's travel schedule.
It's not. And to be honest, it wasn't my idea or my plan, but one of my friends from Sydney wanted to meet me. She was heading to London for a wedding and then she wanted to join me somewhere on a trip. And then she hadn't been to Israel and Jordan. She really wanted to go. So I was like, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily have done those countries on my own. So it was a good opportunity for us to go and we went and it was nothing like what I expected. And
really?
Yeah.
So cool.
Israel, I don't know. I actually fell in love with Tel Aviv. Like,
I hear the food's amazing.
the food is amazing. We basically went on a hummus hunt, to find the best hummus in Israel. And it was just so fresh and just very different to what we have here. But yeah.
Safe?
So it's quite a weird experience. So in Israel, there are basically people walking around with guns. So there's two ways to look at it. Do you feel safe because there's people walking around with guns and nothing's going to happen? Or why is there a need for people to walk around with guns?
Yeah.
So I never felt unsafe. But I didn't necessarily feel safer with people walking around with guns or anything. But like in terms of safety, the place that I felt the least safe was actually Morocco and probably Egypt. So Israel was okay. Israel was fine.
I remember when I was in Mexico at all the ATM machine, there'd be a dude with a machine gun standing next to the ATM while you got your money out. Nearly at every one.
Was he there to take it from you or to protect you from getting it taken?
Security guard, but he had like an M16.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I feel safe getting my money out. But then I'm like, why do we even need that dude there? God damn it, if he's got a machine gun, what are the other guys packing?
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I guess that was a feeling in Israel as well. So yeah, and we were there. I remember we were there in the Jerusalem in the main part, and there was a induction of some sort going on where they're conscripted to go to service, but there was a ceremony where there were people actually being inducted into the army, and then one man said to me, "It's really ironic, isn't it? They get a Bible in one hand and a rifle in the other." So, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that subject.
No, it was very confronting. It was confronting actually, but also really interesting. Just a really interesting place to be.
Great, what a great memory.
And to feel it, because you can actually feel I don't know how you say it, but you can feel the energy of the undertones of the city when you're in Jerusalem.
Would you describe that period of your life traveling as like a detoxification from the corporate world?
So before I set off and when I was telling people about what I was doing, a lot of people would ask me, what are you searching for? Like, what are you hoping to find? And in all honesty, it was not a journey of self-discovery. It was not I want to go out there and find myself, because I think by that stage I'd already learnt a lot about myself and who I was as a person over since I quit work, basically. I'd had a great 2-3 years 3-year period of self-reflection. And for me, it was just this desire to get out there and be a part of different cultures and to try and understand the world, more than what I did. And to, I don't know, basically just to immerse myself in culture. So I started off my trip though, probably as a tourist. And then as I kind of got a little bit further into it, I spent more time with like the locals and trying to actually understand from a cultural perspective rather than just a tourist perspective, trying to tick all the boxes and, but so it was purely just out of, a desire to learn more about different things.
Amazing.
In the world.
So it wasn't like a Julia Roberts in Eat, Pray, Love type thing?
Do you know I've never seen that movie?
Oh, really?
Never.
You know what? That makes me like it even more. No, look, it's a great movie. I admire anyone, including Julia Roberts, who wants to go on a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
It's fucking hard, dude.
Yeah, it is. And it's a really scary thing when you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself the hard questions. But it's actually very rewarding when you do.
I agree. Amazing. Hey, tell me about Iceland. That's on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go there just to see the raw natural environment.
So when I went to Iceland, it was with the intention of seeing the Northern Lights, as everyone does.
Yeah.
But what I discovered is that there's so much more to it. Like we went when it was November, so it was winter. It was freezing cold. I was not prepared for weather like that, but a friend and I, who I'd met along traveling, we decided to hire a camper and just drive around the whole island. And we did it in 10 days, which was probably not enough. But the landscape in Iceland is absolutely stunning. Like
Everyone says that.
I can't even describe it and what I said to my friend was like, it's like every day we're driving through a real life art gallery.
I've heard that.
It's like you look to the left, you look to the right, you look in front, you look behind. It's just like this 360-degree view of just pure, raw, amazing landscape.
That's how I felt when I was in New Zealand.
Well,
driving through the mountain ranges to this place called Lake Wanaka.
Yeah.
You just like everywhere you look, it's like there's a picture frame, there's a picture.
Yep.
Like it was the same thing and so clean and pristine.
Yes.
Like untouched.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that the same vibe?
Yeah, it was. And so the friend that I was traveling with, he's been to both New Zealand and Iceland, and he actually said very similar that they are the two, and he's traveled a lot, and those were his two top destinations in terms of landscape and just beauty, sheer natural beauty.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a big call.
It is. So
go NZ.
Yeah.
Choice, bro.
But even with Iceland, like the locals were saying, if you come back in summer, it's a completely different landscape. So you've got to see it in both winter and summer.
Heard that.
Yeah. So we managed to see the Northern Lights once for like 10 minutes, and it was not spectacular or anything, but we saw it. But for me, it was still like one of the highlights of my trip, just because it wasn't what I was expecting. Because all I thought about was Northern Lights, but was completely surprised by the beauty of it.
Yeah. Oh.
Very expensive though.
Everyone says that.
But worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you prefer spending your money on, things or experiences?
Experiences, hands down.
I knew you were going to say that.
God, I don't even have many things anymore. Like,
how did it feel to sell all your shit?
Amazing.
Have you ever heard that Red Hot Chili Peppers song, Give It Away?
Yes.
Give it away.
And I did. I took like 5 carloads of stuff to not the Salvos because I didn't want it, but I took it to like this cancer council shop, and
how did that feel?
Do you know what? I started my minimalizing journey back in 2017, and the first time I did it, the first round, in all honesty, at that point, I had 130 pairs of shoes, and I halved it.
Are you kidding me? Like designer shoes?
No, not designer, just, I don't know.
Some designer.
Yeah, I remember I lived in Singapore for 6 months and I bought 30 pairs of shoes in 6 months. But anyway, so I had
Is that all? Were they sneakers?
Some were. And high heels.
I understand that. 30 pairs of sneakers. Actually, I need to go get a new pair. Sorry.
No, you don't. But yeah, so I went from 130 down to 60, and that felt incredible. And just the more stuff I gave away, the lighter I felt. Like
Nice.
a lot of things had been weighing me down and I didn't even realize it. And I was holding on to stuff. Like if someone gave me something as a gift, even if I'd never used it, didn't want it, didn't even like it or whatever, I held on to it because I felt guilty. It's like,
Where were you storing all this stuff?
well, I had at that time, I had a
At house.
4-bedroom house
And you were living in that.
by myself. I
Are
had a
you kidding?
4-bedroom house with a home theater and another living room.
And that was
good
everything that
study.
and that was all you created that. That was
Yeah, so I built that house with thinking that that's what I wanted, and then so I had all this stuff to fill this house, and I really only lived in my bedroom and the kitchen, to be honest. Like
That's amazing. You're a gangster.
No, I'm not.
You had a theatre room?
Yeah, I did.
Fair enough. I get that.
I did. But yeah, so I was holding on to this stuff because out of guilt, and then the turning point was I did read the Marie Kondo book.
Who's Marie Kondo?
Come on, everyone's probably heard of her by now.
know
But the concept or the principle is to only hold on to things that spark joy.
Nice.
So all these things that I was holding on to were not sparking joy. It was out of guilt and out of it was burdening me, not giving me joy.
Fear?
Not fear, just guilt. Like
You're holding him out of guilt.
yeah, like if my mum gave me a shirt for Christmas and I'd never worn it because there's nothing that I would ever wear, but I'd still hold on to it because she gave it to me. But once I realized that the joy, she talks about the joy in someone giving it to you is their joy, and you accepting it, but not necessarily in you using it. So, and just letting things go like that. So I was like, okay, so they already experienced their joy by giving it to me. So that means I no longer am obligated to hold on to it. It's just releasing that.
Okay.
And it made me feel so much lighter. I just felt like so much was lifted off me. And now I only own like 30 pairs of shoes, by the way.
Do you wear all of them?
Most, but except for my high heels because I don't work in a corporate job anymore. I don't need them.
That's great.
But yeah,
They're functional shoes. They are. I get it.
Yeah.
If they're, you've really got me thinking, hey, I love that quote from the movie Fight Club, like the things you own will own you.
Yes.
And that's how you felt.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah. I need to be Maria Kondo'd.
I'm happy to help you.
Like I just have accumulated a bit of stuff. Like I don't have a lot of stuff now as it is. I don't. Probably have more surfboards than I need, but is that bad?
As I said, the concept is whatever sparks joy.
Sparks joy.
It's not necessarily
Shitload of
about
joy.
how much you have, but as long as what you do have actually sparks joy.
Oh man.
So if you look at, and there's even things like releasing yourself from emotional attachment to things. So if an ex gave you a present and you don't want it because it resembles them, but then she talks about it's just a thing if you can take the emotion out of it. And it's true.
And then you can just burn it.
You can do that as well.
I'm joking.
Create a nice big bonfire for the winter coming up. Yeah, I like the sounds of that.
Yeah, I love that. And so like, what's next for you? It's been great hearing your journey and your story, and like everyone, there's so much more detail to you than we could ever get to in a conversation of an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
But where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Do you know what? I don't look that far ahead.
Great.
So I guess one of my, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I try not to actually plan too far ahead or too much because, for instance, I had planned to be away for 2 years and then COVID happened and I'm back. So my life kind of was in limbo when I got back from traveling because I didn't know what to. I was in denial. I wanted to go back overseas and start traveling again. So I was in denial. And then, do you know what? The best thing was all I did was kind of just keep going with the flow. I've always kind of been the person who just goes with whatever opportunities come up, and I've never been someone to chase certain things, except for the opportunity to learn. So, for me, even just the job with Habitat was just an opportunity to learn that came up, and blessing. And then, so I guess what's next? I want to continue my work with Habitat because I really do believe in it. And my
Okay, you want to continue your work with Habitat despite the huge pay cut?
yes. Look, I'll be honest. When this job came up, I had an opportunity to go back with Boral. My old manager had called
Can you
me.
stop saying the name?
Sorry, with my old company, they had called me.
Multinational corporation.
They had
Excuse
called me. Yes.
Yeah.
Asking me to come back. And then I had actually said yes, just because I thought it would be good to get some routine back into my life. But then Habitat job came up as well, and I turned down the multinational and I went with Habitat, knowing full well that it was way less than what I would be getting, but I knew that it would be so much more rewarding and just satisfying. And my intent, I guess, is to try and live with purpose and to be of service. I think that the more you can be of service, then the more fulfilled you are. And I don't know, I was driving home from work the other day and it was like a challenging day, but so rewarding. And for the first time in my life, I actually am working in a job that doesn't feel like a job. Like, I can't describe it, but I'm like, is this even work? Like, I wouldn't even care if they weren't paying me. I would just be doing it because I can't explain the sense of joy and fulfillment that it brings inside me. And it's just, I don't know, I'm happy. I think I'm happy. And I'm so... Yeah, we talked about my age. So I am 40 and I turned 40 last year. And the reason, when I was leading up to it, I was so scared of admitting it, that I was turning 40, because who wants to be 40? But I kind of reflected on my life and my journey, and I was like, you know what? I'm actually the most emotionally, spiritually, physically, like, content and at peace than I've ever been in my life. So why wouldn't I be proud to say that at 40 years old? Like, yeah.
So good, Ava. It's amazing. I was trying to say Munva. You have numerous names, but it's just beautiful to hear that. And healing for, I think, a lot of people to hear that.
Yeah, I think it hasn't been without its struggles. It took me a long time to kind of get to know who I am as a person, or to even begin the journey. And actually it takes to even recognize that I needed to work out who I was, and to sort of delve into me as a person and figure out what I stood for. Because I think I was just going through the motions of life, but
unconsciously.
Yeah, unconsciously. And then, but I kind of realized that I couldn't keep doing that because I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was just letting other people dictate my life. So I guess the biggest lesson I learned was that I didn't want to be a victim of anyone else's hands. I just wanted to be in control of my life, my situation. And to do that, I needed to know what I stood for and what I wanted to get out of life. So
that's painful to get to that point.
It is. It's a lot of honesty. It's a lot of stripping back. It's a lot of, healing, forgiving myself.
Surrendering.
Forgiving
yourself.
Forgiving myself. Yeah.
It's great.
100%. I think, I felt there were some decisions or some things that I didn't like that I thought made me a bad person, but someone said to me that I wasn't a bad person, I just made bad decisions. And that was probably the beginning of me understanding that I needed to forgive myself for the bad decisions and to realize that I was a good person. I was just, in shit circumstances that I'd put myself in. So I take full responsibility for my part in things, but I needed to be honest with myself.
It's really nice. It's really nice. And thank you for saying that.
No worries.
It's really cool. And I just want to back it up by saying there's no one in this world who doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And we do, and I think a lot of people will define themselves by their mistakes for their whole life, and it will hold them back for their whole life.
Yeah.
And I think we forget to forgive ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess it's also about making sure you take the lessons from it and not, as you said, not being guided by your past, but letting, it instead not being defined by your past, but letting if you take the lessons and, forward, then you can, and grow from it, then that's all you can, all you can try to do.
And that's it. And I mean, personally, that's what I really work on. I don't want to be defined by my past anymore. It's in the past. I can't fucking go back there.
Exactly.
But you know what I can start to manifest the future.
You can.
And you define yourself by that.
Yeah.
And it could sound really woo-woo.
It can.
But who cares? Fuck, we're only here for a little time. It's funny because I'm now currently I'm a science teacher. Don't ask me how that happened. But I'm really enjoying it, actually. And I remember I was doing a class with some, Year 7 kids, and we're talking about the universe. And Year 7 kids, their minds are so fresh and they're just so open. And we're learning about the sun. And, we found out this fact that you can actually fit 30 million planet Earths into the sun.
No way.
That's how much bigger the sun is than planet Earth. And this kid just goes, 30 million suns, like 30 million Earths into the sun. Like that's how much smaller we are. We're 30 times smaller than the sun.
We're insignificant, aren't we?
And he goes, how many times smaller am I as a human compared to the Earth? And I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you reckon? I mean, are you good with numbers and comparisons? And
no, I have Excel for that.
But okay, one, you got Excel. Such a finance thing to say. I freaking hate Excel. I should burn Excel. I hate Excel. No, just kidding. But anyway, and he just had this. I watched his little mind just go, wow, and I'm so small on the Earth, and then 30 million Earths going to the sun. And he just goes, you know what? I'm just not even a speck of dust. He goes, I'm not even a speck of dust on a speck of dust that's in the world. And you could just see all of a sudden the whole universe just fell on top of him. And I had the moment with him and went, yeah, man, we're really insignificant. Like, let's just enjoy this ride that we're on for the next,
however long.
Let's say we live to 100 at best. Yeah. Good on you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. I think, and we forget that we are just insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
Significant. Your problems and then your problems.
Correct.
So insignificant.
Correct. And what we think is a problem, when you go and talk to the, millions of other people out there with even bigger problems, it's just kind of I think perspective is so important. People lose perspective.
And that's what I'm going to say to people when they're complaining about their problems. I go, hey, did you know you can fit 30 million Earths into the sun?
That's an amazing fact.
30 million Earths.
You're full of wisdom.
Could you work full of something? Now listen, Munva, it's been such a pleasure. What are you laughing at?
It's just so funny to me to hear that name.
Munva?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
you say it really well. You say it really well.
Munvar.
I mean, I'm more, I resonate with Ava more than
I think Ava's a good abbreviation.
It is.
But I think Munva's an awesome name. I think it's a beautiful name. And your grandmother picked it.
She did.
And let's honour that. So that's my opinion. But as long as I'm not offending you.
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're not. I'm not ashamed of it. It's funny to hear it because I haven't heard it for so long, I guess.
Yeah. So listen, I ask all guests to come to the podcast with a cause that they want to support or advocate for. So what are you going to bring for us today? Is it an obvious one?
I think it's pretty obvious. Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, so how can people support Habitat for Humanity?
There's a couple of ways. So you can either sign up as a volunteer, as a community volunteer for our local programs. When borders are lifted, restrictions are lifted, there's also our Global Village program, so you can go overseas and actually help families build in Southeast Asia countries. You can also donate if you don't have time. But I guess my philosophy is the most precious gift that you can give or receive is time. So if you can give your time to the cause, you make a direct impact.
And it's your most valuable resource. It's worth more than money. Let's face it.
It is. And how you choose to spend it. So spend it wisely.
Come
volunteer.
And if you scroll down and look in the show notes of this episode, you'll find a link to Habitat for Humanity. You can find this podcast on a variety of platforms other than the one you're listening to on right now, such as the terriblehappytalks.com website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts, and whatever your preferred platform, please subscribe and write a review. It just helps me to keep the producing weekly episodes and speaking to legends like Munva. And so if you also read the show notes, you'll also find links to our sponsors with, various where you can use the THT affiliate code and get those awesome discounts and support the show at the same time. So listen, Munva, I have a present for you.
Yes.
Our friends at Indo Soul, I hope you're listening, Kai and Kyle, will be sending you a pair of sandals made from repurposed motor vehicle tyres just in time for the Australian winter.
Well, I've been very jealous every time I see your one, so I'm looking forward to it.
So, and you can wear them with socks in winter because, call me old school. It wasn't cool when I was young, but the kids these days are wearing sandals and socks.
Socks and slides. It's called socks and slides.
Is that that's the thing? Mm-hmm. God damn it. I'm doing it. I do it. It feels good. Like, seriously, like, it's just easy. You slide them on. You got your socks on.
Is.
Then people go, yeah, like, that's so uncool. It's cool now. Yeah.
like everything else.
Yeah, like Crocs and socks. I seen a dude.
No, that will never be cool.
No, I seen a kid wearing it.
No.
I'm going to tell you.
No.
This kid was wearing it. And this kid was, okay, this kid was the son of a famous musician. I used to teach him, okay? The son of a musician that I froth over. And that musician was a person called Mike D from the Beastie Boys. I taught his son.
Yes.
And he turned up in Crocs and socks. Now, I was like, fuck, that looks so cool. I want to get some Crocs and socks. Now, was it because it was cool or was it because it was Mike D's son?
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you reckon that was the that was the difference?
If it was anyone else who had been wearing it, you would have been like, what's that idiot?
You're a kook.
Yeah.
But no. I don't know. It's really, how do you define cool? It's so hard.
It is. I don't think there is a definition of cool.
Yeah. Cool is...
Maybe you. Are you the definition of cool?
God, no, man. I'm a middle-aged, balding man. Friggin'
Who
midlife
still
crisis.
surfs and skates?
With a sore back. So, I think, are we done? Are we good? Oh, I've got to give you the THT Circle logo sticker, so you're now THT alumni.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that.
Stick that in a significant location where it can get maximum views. And I think we're good, man. You don't want to finish on anything else? Something profound, something deep? No, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Munva.
No, it's been thank you for having me on. Shannon.
Munvar.
Shannon.
Munvar. Bar.